There's a moment from my past I try to forget, because when I think about it, I still don't know if it was real or some twisted nightmare. I've never told this story out loud, mostly because it sounds like something made up. But I swear to you, what I went through that day was very real, and it still chills me to this day. It was the last day of school. Not finals, not graduation, just the actual last day where no one really does anything. That day when teachers bring donuts, kids film TikToks in the hallway, and you just coast through until the bell rings. It was humid. One of those summer days that makes the school hallways smell like old gym socks and melted plastic. Everyone was running around with their phones out, saying goodbye, promising to keep in touch, even though half of them would unfollow each other by July. My friend group, me, Marcus, Emily, and Jordan, we had plans for the afternoon. We were going to hit the pool, maybe sneak into the back lot of the movie theater later that night. It was the last hurrah before everything changed. Or at least that's how it was supposed to go. But none of us expected that day to end the way it did. It started with a senior prank. Our school was known for doing dumb stuff at the end of the year, but this time was different. Someone had replaced all the TV monitors in the hallway with this weird video. Just a black screen with white letters that said, "You will not make it home." At first, everyone thought it was a joke. Like maybe one of the AV kids trying to be edgy, but the weird thing was, no one admitted to it. And the school couldn't figure out how the message had even gotten on the system. Admin shut it down pretty fast, but not before it spread all over Snap and Instagram. I even took a photo of it. I still have it in my camera roll, buried way down from 2021. Anyway, we all laughed it off. Moved on with our day. But the real story started at around 1:45. My last class was in this old portable behind the school, one of those trailers they turn into classrooms when there's not enough space. It always smelled like mold and leftover pizza. I had biology with Mr. Cromwell, but he was out that day, so we had a sub. Here's the thing though, none of us had ever seen this sub before. He didn't introduce himself, just walked in, took attendance without saying a word, and then sat at the teacher's desk watching us. Literally just watching. We joked that maybe he was a retired CIA agent or something. I mean, the guy looked rough, like he hadn't slept in a week. Greasy hair, torn collar, cracked glasses. But the weirdest part was his hands. His fingers were completely black. Not like he was wearing gloves, like the skin itself was just blackened, charred. He never spoke, just stared. At 2:05, a girl named Tasha raised her hand to ask if we could leave early. The guy just stood up, walked over, and stared at her until she slowly lowered her hand. No one said a word after that. I was counting down the minutes on my phone. We all were. At exactly 2:18, the lights cut out. Like not just in the room, but everywhere. Even the sky outside dimmed like a cloud had swallowed the sun. And that's when we heard it. A voice from the intercom. But not the regular school intercom voice. Not the secretary. It sounded warped, like it was being played backward. It was just noise at first, but then the words started to make sense. It said, "You were warned. One of you won't leave. Choose." Some kids screamed, others laughed thinking it was another prank. But then the classroom door slammed shut. Like, hard. And the sub, if that's even what he was, he turned and looked at us with this crooked smile. Then walked out the emergency exit. He just left. The rest of us were frozen. No one moved. No one even breathed. Emily whispered that we should just leave, that maybe the door would open if we tried it again. So Jordan got up first and tried the main door, locked. He tried the windows, nailed shut. We were stuck. That's when we noticed something even weirder. On the whiteboard, written in red marker that hadn't been there 5 minutes ago, were our names. All four of us. Me, Marcus, Emily, and Jordan. Underneath it said, "One will stay." I wish I could explain what happened next. I really do. Because the next 5 minutes felt like they didn't happen in real time. The air got heavy, like you could feel it pressing down on your chest. The lights flickered back on, but they were this awful yellow hue, like they were buzzing with static. The room itself felt wrong, smaller. That's when Marcus started freaking out. He grabbed a chair and tried breaking the window, screaming at the top of his lungs, but the sound? The sound didn't leave the room. I know that makes no sense, but we could hear him screaming. Yet it was like the sound just bounced around inside, never making it past the walls. Then the lights shut off again. Complete darkness, just for a second. When they flicked back on, Marcus was gone. No blood, no scream, no broken glass, just gone. We checked under the desks, in the supply closet, everywhere. Nothing. The board had changed again. Now it said, 3 remain, choose again. That was it for me. I lost it. I started pounding on the door, yelling for anyone, anything. But the rest of the school was already dismissed. No one could hear us. Emily grabbed my hand and said, "We're not choosing. That's what it wants." She was always the rational one. Jordan, on the other hand, looked ready to have a breakdown, and then, without warning, the door opened. Just creaked open on its own. No one was standing there, just the field behind the school and the distant sound of buses leaving. We bolted, no hesitation. We didn't look back. We didn't speak, just ran. We never saw Marcus again. No one ever asked about him, not the teachers, not his parents. It's like he was erased. His locker was cleaned out by the next morning. His name was removed from the yearbook. His social media accounts were deleted. Gone. Emily and I tried to talk about it once, like really talk about it. But both of us got nosebleeds during the conversation. I'm not kidding. Same time, same second. Jordan dropped out over the summer and moved across the country. And me? I transferred schools the next year. But I still have the photo from that last day saved on my phone, the one I took before everything went sideways. If you zoom in just right, in the background, you can see the portable behind the school, and in the window, there's a man watching, blackened fingers, cracked glasses, smiling. This happened at my cousin Rachel's school back in 2016. I wasn't there myself, but I heard the story so many times from her and the other kids who were there that I feel like I lived it. To this day, it's one of the creepiest things I've ever heard. It was the last day of freshman year, a Friday. Now, this was a small town, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and nothing really ever happens. Their high school barely had 300 students total, so the last day of school wasn't some huge celebration. It was more like people just trying to kill time before summer officially started. Rachel said they were just sitting around joking, throwing pencils at each other, nothing serious. But at exactly 11:32 a.m., the intercom crackled on. Not the usual ding you hear before someone starts speaking, just raw static. Then a voice came through, but it wasn't the principal, it wasn't a teacher, it wasn't even human, if that makes sense. It was low, broken, like someone whispering through a broken speaker underwater. It said slowly, "You've been chosen." And that was it. Rachel said they all kind of froze. It was so out of place that for a second they thought it was a prank. But then the band room door slammed shut on its own and locked from the inside. They tried everything. Jiggling the handle, kicking the door, even trying to open the window next to the percussion closet. Nothing worked. That's when Ben, the quiet kid, started freaking out. He kept saying, "It's him! It's him! I knew he'd come back." Rachel had no idea what he meant. None of them did. But Ben was full-on panicking, pacing back and forth, repeating the same thing. That's when the lights cut out. Pitch black. Now imagine being trapped in a music room filled with sharp metal stands, wires, and barely any windows. Rachel said it was so dark she couldn't even see her own hands. But they could all hear something. Not a scream, not footsteps, breathing. Deep, slow, wet breathing, like someone with a lung infection was standing right in the middle of the room with them. They didn't move, not a sound. And then Clara screamed. She said someone grabbed her ankle. When Rachel turned on her phone flashlight, there was no one there, but get this. The carpet under Clara was soaked. And I mean soaked like someone had poured water all over it. But there were no leaks, no spills, just wet. That's when the fire alarm went off. But here's the part that messes with me. The fire alarm didn't sound like a real alarm. It was slower. And instead of the usual blaring tone, it played this low, pulsing tone, almost like a heartbeat. The door finally unlocked on its own. No one touched it. They just heard the click. Rachel said they didn't think twice. They ran. Down the hall, around the corner, back toward the gym. Only when they got there, the slideshow was still playing. Kids were sitting calmly, no fire alarm, no one heard anything. And when they tried to explain what happened to a teacher, they just got brushed off. Like, completely dismissed. The teacher even said, "We never use the intercom today." Here's where it gets even weirder. That night, Rachel looked up old yearbooks with Jamal, and guess who they found? A kid named Derek Lane, a freshman from 10 years earlier who had died in that very same band room. Suicide. Hung himself from one of the lighting pipes with a French horn strap. But it gets worse. Derek's body wasn't found for hours. The intercom system had glitched that day too, apparently playing static during second period, right around the time they think he died. Rachel doesn't talk about it much anymore. Clara moved away the next year. Ben? He transferred out and never spoke to any of them again. But the thing that stuck with her most, the thing that still haunts her to this day, when she got home that afternoon and opened her backpack to take out her binder, it was soaked. The pages were dripping. The inside smelled like mildew and iron. And tucked in the back pocket was a note, written in smudged black ink. "You didn't choose me." The last day of school is supposed to be unforgettable, but not like this. What I experienced wasn't just strange, it felt staged, like I'd walked into someone else's ritual. It was the end of junior year, and the vibe at school was exactly what you'd expect. Everyone was signing yearbooks, blasting music from Bluetooth speakers, and talking about summer plans. We were finally free. My friends, Nick, Sean, and Kara, were all scattered. Kara had dipped to the bathroom. Sean was off grabbing snacks, and Nick went to say bye to his girlfriend. So I ended up heading to the auditorium alone. The plan was simple: sit through the corny slideshow, fake laugh at the principal's speech, and then get out. But that's not what happened. When I got to the auditorium doors, something felt off. The hallway was completely silent, no other students or teachers in sight. And behind the doors, I could hear this faint, almost static-like buzzing. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe I got there early. So I pushed the door open. What I saw stopped me cold. The auditorium was packed, wall to wall with students, but none of them were sitting or talking. They just stood shoulder to shoulder, motionless. And every single one was wearing a white, featureless mask. No eyes, no mouth, just a smooth surface staring forward. The whole room was bathed in a deep red light that cast long shadows across the walls. It wasn't emergency lighting, just red, unnatural light. I moved to leave, but when I reached for the door, there was nothing there, no door. Just a solid wall. My heart started racing. Panic settled in. Then, without warning, the static stopped. The room fell completely silent. Slowly, the students started clapping. Clap, 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 in perfect rhythm. Mechanical, like a ritual. A figure stepped onto the stage. Tall, draped in a black graduation robe. His mask was different from the rest. It had a twisted smile carved into it, unnaturally wide. He raised his arm and the clapping stopped. Then he said, "One must stay." His voice wasn't human. It sounded broken, filtered through static. Then, total darkness. I couldn't see a thing. Not my hands, not the floor. The air felt heavy, like something had shifted in the room. And then the lights flickered back on. I was standing in the hallway again. Everything looked normal. Students were chatting, lockers slammed, laughter filled the air. I turned back to the auditorium. It was empty. Chairs stacked, lights off, like no one had been there. I tried telling a counselor what happened. She gave me a weird look, asked if I was feeling okay, then said, "Was the figure smiling?" I said yes. She told me to drink some water and take it easy for the rest of the day. That question haunted me. Months later, during Alumni Day, I went back to the school. In the lobby, behind glass, was an old black and white graduation photo, class of 1956. Everyone wore caps and gowns except one figure in the center. Tall, robed in black, wearing a white mask with that same carved smile. The plaque beneath read, "Class of 56, one must stay.